Start with attendance, Rita Brown, chair, and District 11.
I'm 15, Dave Hertz.
You're not 15. You're not 15.
Yeah, Dave Hertz and District 15, County
Aaron.
Board Supervisor.
Aaron Carroll, District 23.
Kara Decker, District 22.
Julia Robinson, District 5.
Kenzie Mauer, Youth and Governance.
Juniper Crescent, Youth and Governance.
Eric Meadows, District 18.
April Webb, Planning Office.
Andy Bueller, Director of Planning and Development.
And excused is Frederick Burkhouse. Tell us about the notice for tonight's meeting.
We can do that, sure. So we have the notice for tonight's meeting, which is a publication in Kenosha News. It's a Class 2 notice, and it was published on October 29th and November 5th.
And we held a work session yesterday where staff presented each item, allowing for committee members to ask questions and receive detailed answers. And so now we're going to start the agenda.
Yes, so we'll start out with Nicole Smith, which is 22,600 60th Street, Bristol, Wisconsin, 53104 owner, requesting an amendment to an existing conditional use permit for an event barn in the A2 General Agricultural District on tax parcel number 304-220-3630112, located in the town of Brighton. And I'll show the map on here. So here's the map showing Highway K and EW. This is the property here. Conditional use permit was granted in December of 2023 for this event barn. And there was a prohibition in regards to a deck, and the amendment is being asked to allow for a deck and be able to serve out on the deck, and the petitioner is here, and so you can state your name and address and just kind of let the committee know what this amendment is all about and why you're asking for it.
My name's Nicole Smith and my address is 22,600 60th Street in Bristol. I think that what I would propose for the deck would help allow a better space for the business. Allow people to have a place to be involved within the party, and then also an outdoor space to enjoy the weather and be able to talk more freely, whereas inside there might be, probably music and dancing going on inside. So I think it would be a great asset to the current proposed business. See the new drawings there.
And you saw the conditions were sent to you?
Have the email for,
Yeah, from Ben in regards to conditions for tonight. Did you have any questions with those at all? I mean, basically, there was the change in regards to the deck, allowing the deck to be used for outdoor gathering space. And then I think there was also some drive indications because of using a one-way drive.
yeah,
signage.
and that is no longer, I have pictures if you'd like to see it. There's not a shared driveway anymore. It is removed and filled in. Okay. So.
Questions? There's no. Anyone wishing to speak for the petition? Anyone wishing to speak for the petition? Anyone wishing to speak against the petition? Wishing to speak against the petition? I have a question. You're gonna ask me, you want me to?
You go ahead.
Okay, so one of the questions we discussed yesterday was about your liquor license. Can you, explain to us how the deck would be handled with regard to?
So in regards to what I found online for regulations, I will have to apply for, I think it's considered an extension of the liquor license. So bars will be inside the building, but of course, someone may have a cocktail and walk out onto the decks.
Wait,
So as far as the actual service area will be inside the building.
right, but so you
But-
have to file for an extension in order for them to be allowed to walk out?
Yes.
Okay, that's, I
Yes.
guess.
Yep.
Essentially revise the premise, right?
Then, what did the town say?
So we have from the town met on this on October 22nd, and a motion was made to approve, and it passed unanimously 3-0.
Motion to approve the conditional use permit as with the conditions as stated.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve from Supervisor Decker with a second from Supervisor Robinson. Any further discussion? With the governance? Okay, everyone else? Opposed? Abstaining. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you.
You have, this is my copy or your copy?
The signed.
That will have you sign the conditions, and then you'll be all set.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you so much. Good luck with all that.
Thank you.
What's the time frame for getting that constructed?
I am hoping, as soon as the weather's cooperating in 25, so maybe April, because I want to put concrete downstairs. The state they don't have a lot of stipulations. They have, they want the access doors on each end and the exit signs. So on my other projects that I would like to complete is concrete downstairs, the deck, things to make it more welcoming.
Sounds good.
And
Thanks so much.
I would also love to, if anyone has anything in communities that the building can be used for, I would like to donate the space for that. So if anyone has any, I want to be helpful to the community as well.
Great. Great. Thank you. So then we're gonna move on to item 3, which is Kenosha County Professional Services Agreement with the Village of Summers. And to administer the village zoning shoreline floodplain ordinance. So this is a contract that we have with Summers. It started out, I think again, it was about 2015 for 1 year, and then the last several have been for 3-year increments. This is for 2025 and 2026. It is a $11,000 increase from the previous year based upon just the workload that we've been able to track going forward. The village did approve this contract already with that amount, and that amount is part on here as a budget modification because we didn't know that was approved prior to the budget going forward. We anticipated 92,000, and now it's 132. I mean, 103. Right. Threw you off there.
Yeah, no, yeah. I guess anyone can.
It is a public hearing.
Okay, so anyone wishing to speak? Anyone wishing to speak? Anyone, wishing to speak for the petition, for the ordinance approving? Anyone wishing to speak against it? Anyone wishing to speak against it? Any discussion? Motion to approve.
Second.
All right. Supervisor Decker, motion to approve, Supervisor Martin, second. Governance, follow everyone else.
All right.
Opposed, any abstaining? All right, motion carried unanimously.
Great, thanks. That'll then go to finance. All right. So then the next item is ordinance extending the temporary moratorium on the consideration and or issuance of zoning permits, building permits, conditional use permits, and zoning approvals for the battery energy storage systems pending enactment of the zoning ordinance to address these systems. And so with this, this is an extension of an existing moratorium, and it's being extended just long enough to get past the approval process. So as you know, the battery energy storage system was approved at the county board last week. And then once it gets published, there's a 40-day waiting period for comments from the towns. And to get past that, we needed to extend the moratorium. It's being extended for 75 days. John Moyer's here from Corp Council, work on putting that together. If there's any specific questions.
Anyone wishing to speak on the ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak against the ordinance? Anyone wishing to speak against the ordinance?
Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion to approve from Supervisor Meadows and a second from Supervisor Decker. Youth and Governance. Aye. Anyone else?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you.
Then I think that goes to county board on Tuesday, the 19th for a second reading. Become effective just in time before the other one runs out.
Yes, which runs out in 20 seconds.
Right, all right, thanks, John. Okay, then we have a tabled request. We'd like to have it removed from the table.
Make a motion to remove from the table. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
All right, then with that being removed from the table, we have J&S Real Estate Company LLC, 1045 Geneva National Avenue, North Lake Geneva, Wisconsin, 53147 owner, Peter Murphy, One Energy Renewables, 10 North Livingston Street, Suite 201, Madison, Wisconsin, 53703. Agent requesting conditional use permit to allow the construction of a solar farm in the A1 Agriculture Preservation District on tax parcel number 454-221-334-0400, located in the town of Paris. So I'm gonna start out with map here showing the property on A and B. And then we have Peter here, so if you can state your name and address and maybe walk through this. We have your PowerPoint presentation right here. And I can advance it as you.
Thank you. Peter Murphy, 10 North Livingston Street, Suite 201, Madison, Wisconsin, 53703. I'm representing One Energy Renewables and Jerry Morges, who's the landowner here. I'm accompanied by Nolan Stump. We're proposing the Strawberry Creek Solar Project. Next slide, please. So a little bit about us. One Energy is an independent developer of renewable energy projects, specifically solar projects. We've got 30 people in our Madison office out of about 80 people nationwide. We've got a considerable portfolio of Wisconsin projects, including most near to this one is in the town of Wheatland, the Silver Lake Solar Project that we constructed last year. Next slide, please. So this is just a map to demonstrate some of our experience in the upper Midwest. As you can see, we've done some projects in Minnesota, a couple in Iowa, a couple in Illinois, but the lion's share of our work has been in Wisconsin. Nolan and I actually both grew up near here in Ozaukee County. And Nolan lives in Madison and I live in Milwaukee. Next slide, please. So this presentation will be substantially similar to the one I delivered regarding the Silver Lake Solar Project. I think that was back in, I think I presented in beginning of 23. But one of the questions we frequently get is how do we cite a solar project? And really, there's 3 tenets to this that all kind of have to come together perfectly for it to work. The first is the existing electrical infrastructure. So in this case, Mr. Warnges asked us if we had any interest in this particular parcel. So the kind of step one with that is to submit it to the incumbent utility, be it MG&E or Alliant or Excel or WPS, or in this case, We Energies, and they perform a distribution study. And that can take anywhere from 6 to 12 months. But essentially what they're doing is they're evaluating the electrical infrastructure. So the 3-phase lines that are adjacent to the property and the substation nearby to the northeast, Holloway substation. And they basically tell us what upgrades will be required and what will the cost be. And oftentimes the cost is very high. And the projects kind of die on the vine at that stage. While during that 6 to 12 month period of distribution study, we will do the site diligence, look at the conditions of the site, make sure that there's no pipelines crossing the site, make sure the depth of bedrock is suitable for solar, make sure the topography is suitable, make sure it's free of floodplains, that type of thing. And then the third tenet is this interested landowner. So these kind of all came together relatively quickly and relatively simultaneously in terms of all of this kind of happening. But it's difficult to find an interested landowner who is willing to host a solar project on their land for 30 to 50 years, possibly. So we have all of these three things in this site. Next slide, please. And one back, please. There we go. So this is the site plan for the Strawberry Creek Solar Project. Again, Town of Paris. This is a 6 megawatt solar project. The fenced area is, it's kind of hard to see from here, but it's the blue line is the fenced area. That's approximately 28 acres of a larger 65 acre parcel here. The project would produce enough electricity to power approximately 1,400 average Wisconsin homes. And again, connecting to existing three-phase distribution lines that are along 60th Street. So the interconnection would happen, yes, where Andy's pointing to at the southeast corner there. We are proposing screening along the west side of the project, row of hardy evergreens. And there's a Department of Transportation bill project that took place over the at some point over the last few years that substantially built up the southern third of that parcel, which essentially screens the view from 60th Street there. So we're not proposing any vegetative screen to the south. It's also set back approximately 812 feet from the right of way. And then the area outside of the project will continue to be farmed. Next slide, please. You go one back. So the components of the project are pretty much the same as at the Silver Lake Solar Project. We would use bifacial solar panels, single axis trackers, and then steel racking. So starting from the bottom, from the ground, the steel I-beams are embedded directly into the ground. They're about 15 feet tall. So 10 feet of that are underground, and then 5 feet stick out of the ground. On top of those are the steel torque tubes. So a torque tube is essentially just the fulcrum for the single axis tracker. So the torque tube sits on top of that I-beam. It's about 5.5, 6 feet tall. And then the solar modules sit on top, and the torque tubes run north and south, and the solar panels start at 50 degrees facing east in the morning, and then they track the sun throughout the day until they're facing 50 degrees to the west. So they track the sun in real time. The type of modules that we use are these bifacial panels. So Nolan's obviously demonstrating here. This is similar to what you would see on a residential solar installation. So you've got this polymer backsheet that's white. On projects like this, as you can see in the image on the left, the back looks the same as the top. So the solar panels are able to absorb sunlight from reflected off the ground. So be that vegetation or in many cases snow. We have an image of snow, but you know what snow looks like. Anytime you've gotten a sunburn, very slick. Anytime you've gotten a sunburn, you know, doing some work outside in the winter on your chin, you know that solar albedo effect can be pretty strong. So the single axis trackers and the bifacial panels really improve the efficiency and economics of the project. They're able to produce quite a bit more electricity, approximately 20+% more than if they were just fixed tilt and single monofacial panels. Yeah, next slide, please. Surrounding the site, like I said, is a fence. This is an agriculture style fence, a deer fence, woven wire. The gauge of the wire is more narrow at the bottom. It's 3 inches by 6 inches at the bottom, and then if it's at the top, sometimes we're requested to install them upside down, so there's more opportunity for small furry critters to pass through, and that would be totally fine. They're 8 feet tall, and the posts are 20 feet apart. You've probably seen these around orchards or farm fields many times before. And then the remaining components are the inverters and the transformers. So there are 24 inverters throughout the site. They're centrally located, dispersed throughout the site, but kind of like concentrated toward the center. What they do is convert the direct current that flows from the solar panels to alternating current, which is what we use on the grid. The inverters then send that electricity to 2 transformers, which are also centrally located. These transformers just step up the voltage to match, again, what is on the grid today. The transformers are mounted on a steel skid, allowing us to have no pavement at all on the site. So because there's no pavement on site, we're able to plant native pollinator habitat throughout the site. We've got currently about 151 acres being grazed by sheep. We don't have plans for sheep grazing at this site, but we do have plans for native pollinator habitat. So these are deep-rooted perennial prairie plants. Benefits of this dual use having, when I first started working at One Energy, I did not fully appreciate how important the vegetation maintenance is and the management plan of vegetation. But I've started to think about these projects more akin to conservation, like conservation projects with solar on them, because of the amount of effort and energy that goes into making sure that vegetation is done right. Next slide, please. So these are this is our last slide. Basically, we love giving tours of sites. We use local contractors, including currently we're working with Westfall based in Madison, Pieper based in New Berlin. We've worked with Arch Electric based in Plymouth. So these are local family supporting jobs, pay prevailing wage, or you work with union contractors. We support workforce development with Wisconsin partners, including the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, who does bread and butter is kind of like training folks who install solar. And solar installer is one of the fastest growing jobs in the United States and has been for a while now. Next slide. We're happy to answer any questions. Appreciate the opportunity to present to you all.
Okay, anyone wishing to speak for the petition? Yeah, possibly better afterwards. Anyone
Okay.
wishing to speak for the petition? Anyone wishing to speak against petition? Oh,
John Holloway, Town of Paris, Chair 16607 Burlington Road. We're not necessarily speaking against or for the petition. This did come before our planning commission and town board, and you do have our recommendations in your packet with some additional conditions that we recommended. And we just have, because of the nature of this type of a project, is that it's a little bit of a project that is a work in progress. We did not have all of the answers that we were seeking at the time that the petition came before us. We had tabled it once at the town level. There's discussion about should we table it again, and we questioned whether that was fair to the petitioner. And so we did move our recommendation forward to your committee. But as I said, it's a work in progress because I'm working every day with a larger solar array in the town of Paris, and I work daily with WEC, who is ultimately going to be the purchaser of this project. a number of things that have come up since we made our recommendation, and so I just wanted to be able to put them on the record and make you aware of them. I don't know whether these were gonna rise to a request from the town to actually add them as conditions, but I'm just gonna go through the areas that we have. As I said, one of the things, and we just got the copy of the proposed county conditions late this afternoon, and so that we had not had a time to go through it with any deep dive here. But some of the concerns or thoughts we have here is that the petition is from One Energy, but they are merely the developer. The end user is WEC. I've talked with WEC and they're aware that the conditions that the county would put on it will transfer, when they acquire the project, they also buy all of the conditions that the county puts on, but the conditions as the county ordinance is written is focused on a small community scale, and that's not what this is going to be. It is going to be folded into a WEX portfolio, and it is treated from an assessment standpoint, from a utility tax assessment, all of those type of things as on a state utility scale. And so we just want to make sure that the language is in here correctly so that it does follow through, it does track through. And some of the conditions that we have in this are ultimately going to be binding on WEC, and that some of the conditions we have, by the time that we assume We Energy is going to acquire the project, is that some of those won't be met yet. And so that we need to make sure, again, that there's language in there that is binding. The town of Paris ran into an issue years ago of recommendations from the town that did not properly get rolled into the conditional use permit, and have subsequently been determined that the conditions that the town wanted were not enforceable because they were not properly noticed in the county conditions. So we believe that the language, as you have in your, before you, you're referring to our conditions and to our minutes and our planner's recommendations, but I just wanted it on the record that the town of Paris does expect all of the conditions that we put in there to be binding on all parties. So that would be the first part. Then one of the things that we had in our recommendation from our planning commission was that they recommended that the towns enter into an MOU with One Energy. Now, that is not a contract, obviously, that would include the county. And with the MOU that we have with Paris Solar Project, that was deliberately not included by reference in the county recommendations because the county had its own MOU, it was not party to it. So we're, again, just getting it on the record, is that the town does intend to reach an MOU on some items with, whether it be One Energy or WEC. But I want it on your record that that's the town's expectation. Something that came up just recently in a meeting with another solar project, that it involves county highway access permits that we don't address in either the town conditions or the county conditions, how highway access is going to be permitted. And where this is important is that on the project up in Paris, the county granted 30-foot wide culverts to accommodate construction traffic. But there was no thought into putting, when construction is over, do those culverts have to be downsized down to, because normally the county does not permit over 24-foot culverts. And so there's no language so we're working through that on Parasolar one. I just wondered whether there should be any language in this agreement, because Greg Bolt was not party to any of that. And he's the one who's pointing out now, that he has some regulations that he needs to follow. Should there something be put in here just so that Greg has standing with the highway access permitting, both construction and post-construction. Another thing that has come up is that there has been a failure of notification on the Wheatland project and the Parasolar project is, and I wanted to put it on the record, is that we feel that adjacent landowners and all affected municipalities should be given notification of when the project is completed, and your conditions do require a post-construction meeting. So that may cover it. But the neighbors are telling us that they have not been made aware that when a solar project is powering up, they would have liked to have known when the panels are powering up. And there's nothing in the conditions here that require notification to the town and the county about transfer of ownership when it happens, when it becomes binding on that. And then the last thing that I had on here is that they are asking for a leniency on your wetland construction regulations. Is that subsequently, since I've been thinking about that, is that we agree that the waiver that they're asking for makes this project a more useful, probably a better plan. Our main concern, they have a ruling from the DNR that driven posts are not considered construction in a wetland, where our concern is, are there any rules on best construction practices when pile driving in a wetland? What we're concerned about is that if the contractor goes out and pile drives in wet conditions in a wetland or wetland soils, that they're going to compact those wetland soils and affect how those wetland soils function, and compact them. And a lot of times in these type of soils in the town of Paris, is the only way you're gonna get that compaction out is by mechanical subsoiling. You build a solar operation with the pilings are precise location, they need to remain, specifically where they're located and oriented where they need to be, is that we doubt that mechanical removal of compaction is feasible. So should there be at all a condition on there that if you do grant that leniency on the wetland issue, should there be a condition that the contractor will not do any tracked vehicles in those wetland, those identified wetland areas under conditions that would lead to compaction? So thank you for listening. And then Jeff Badke, our Plan Commission Chairman, is here as well.
You wish to speak?
Yes, please.
All right,
Yes.
name and address, please.
Jeff Badke, 1412 136th Avenue. A couple things. John covered one. I guess I'd like to cover it again, though. I am not overly excited about the way it'd be number 3 on your conditional use, how it ties our conditions to your conditional approval. I would love you to entertain if those 20 conditions could be physically spelled out and not just see attachment. We spent months on those conditions and they are very important to us. And I just received this afternoon, but the one thing that kind of jumps out at me is on the decommissioning. It says, see, that'd be on page 7. prior to issuance of a zoning permit, the solar farm owner shall post a reasonable financial assurance, bond or letter of credit. I myself, I'm a developer. I'm very familiar with bonds of letter of credit. These things expire without notice. And it says that they will be revisited every 5 years. To the best of my knowledge, you cannot get a letter of credit for over 2 years. So these things would be expired before they were even revisited. Therefore, leaving you no financial assurance upon decommissioning. It also states here is kind of interesting language about determining the cost that scrap value shall be taken into consideration. Scrap value is traded daily. It could be $1, it could be $500. That's kind of an irrelevant sentence to put in there, and it says use a qualified engineer. I'd be hard pressed to find any engineer that has any experience with removing a solar farm. So there's that language there, I think, is really leaving the county up for an issue down the road. I don't think it's an issue today. It's an issue when the decommissioning may become needed. So I guess I'd be asking your committee to potentially table this item and get these. We are not here to object this. We're trying to make sure things are spelled out correctly. And I think we have enough concerns in the way this document is written, and you really only have one chance to write this. If he signs this tonight, you're done. You can't change these conditions or spell them out clearer, I guess. So, like I said, we're not objecting to it. We just want to make sure all the town's concerns are taken care of. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Carroll, I believe you had a question.
One of my big concerns with solar farms or fields is that there's a minimal amount of grading that's done, or if any at all. So what is your plan for grading the site, if anything?
Yeah, so our approach to solar development, what we call low impact solar development, because we use called a pile reveal window that is 2 feet in general. It can go up, it can go down, but in general, we use a 2-foot pile reveal window. What that means is basically we can tolerate more undulation in the land without grading, because we basically like buy more steel. Our projects aren't the gigantic, hundreds of acres ones. This is 28 acres. And so we are able to tolerate more undulations in the land by essentially purchasing more steel up front so that we can do less earthwork.
What's your plan for this site as far as earthwork goes?
Oh, we have a civil plan that describes the earthwork. I don't know how I can answer that for you.
Right, so
We're using that 2-foot pile reveal window to answer your question.
and I think that's good. I can understand what you're talking about. But as far right now, it's a tillable field as far as agricultural goes. My concern is that when the projects are done and they do get decommissioned, that there is the possibility to revert back to tillable field. This is all a very new technology, and I've heard on other solar farms, fields that when there's grading that's done, there's no regard for topsoil. It just all gets moved around on site. And basically, if it does get decommissioned and everything gets removed, then it's not really a tillable site anymore. It can't be put back into agricultural production very readily.
Yeah, no, I understand now. So that's something we care about a lot. That's built into our lease. At the end of the useful life of the project, the land has to be returned to agricultural. It has to be farmable. It has to be essentially the agricultural condition that it was in prior to construction.
Right.
And that's also part of our decommissioning plan. And so, yeah, we're committed to that. The idea partially behind the native pollinator habitat throughout the site, deep-rooted prairie plants, is that it's good for the soil. Once the project comes out at the end of its useful life, it'll be really good land.
Understand, I watched
Oh.
the progression at Wheatland over there, and it didn't appear that, and that was my same question on the Wheatland one or Silver Lake, I think that's what you're calling it.
Yeah.
Was just that there was not a major amount of changing in the grades and grading going on site.
Yeah, we try to maintain drainage, to the extent possible to match pre-construction conditions or be better in terms of drainage. To answer your question about topsoil, we preserve all the topsoil, none of it leaves the site. There's this double cut method of basically moving topsoil out of the way, changing whatever needs to be changed in terms of subsoil, subsurface soil, and then putting topsoil back on. So that's standard part of our process, is making sure that there's topsoil.
And that would be in conformance with standard tech methods of leaving it in a spot that it can be returned to an agricultural field again. The projects that I've heard about is that there isn't any regard for topsoil, and it's just graded and wasted on site, and it's not easily returned.
Yeah, the establishing of vegetation is, I mean, like Peter said, really, really important for us. So it's a big priority, just to keep the topsoil.
That's it for now, but I know that I think we have to address the town's questions as well, so. Go ahead.
Thank you. I mean, I planned on, I understood the policy we had in front of us, and I planned on considering it with the 20 items from the town. I wasn't aware of these other items that the town presented tonight. There's quite a few of them, and they all seem pretty good, pretty sensible. The letter of credit at 5 years, we should review that with Corp Council. The idea of, I guess maybe 30 years from now, maybe this will be a profession, engineers that decommission these things might exist, but that is an issue. The 30-foot to the 24-foot, I was concerned about that. The access and egress, we definitely want to review it and make sure it conforms with our highway commissioners' standards and our highway standards. Notice upon completion, notice upon power up, notice upon transfer to WEC or whoever it's going to go to. This item of wetlands, compacting wetlands, that concerned me. We didn't know about any of this, and also the idea of incorporating the 20 items rather than as an attachment. I'm fine with that too. So it just seems like there's too much here to try to amend this policy on the fly. So I would make a motion to table this.
Thank you.
Any further discussion?
I just want to make a comment that we didn't get all the entire. We only got.
Yeah, that's why I didn't bring it up on here, as it is.
That, number one, number two, I know that Chairman Holloway has worked many years with solar farms, and if he has questions, I think those are valid questions, no matter what they are. And I know Supervisor Badke also has an established business with land use, we'll just say, and his questions are also very valid, so I think we need to table this and dig into it a little bit further, get more information.
And then just one suggestion is, if that is the case, then if you can spell out specifically what you would like to have happen. Cause some of the concerns,
So, Andy, you can tell me if this is on the record, it's recorded, the items I mentioned are on the record. And I want these considered as I stated, and unless I need to procedurally do something other than what I've done, this is why I'm tabling it.
okay,
But also I'll add another item to work with the developer and with the town and make sure that if there's anything else, let's get it in here so we don't have to table it again. I would add that to my conditions. Okay, for the tabling.
April, are you clear with that? Okay. And,
Yep, I'm good with that. As a second.
go ahead.
I just have one question regarding the comment that, Mr. Holloway had in regarding the letter of credit for the bond. I know that the county does this with non-metallic mines and potentially with others on that. What has been your experience with that? Have they posted bonds for that stuff as opposed to letter of credits, or have you ever seen?
It's been a mix, yeah, and
I guess I'm curious, have we run into the issue that he described of them continuously needing to be renewed?
they do need to be renewed. That is correct. And in this case, what it's indicating, it's not talking about the renewal, because that kind of isn't on its own. It's just that, every 5 years, it needs to be relooked at so that the numbers can be adjusted if necessary. But the bonds and our letter of credit, I mean, that has to be taken care of as their timeframe dictates.
Right, and it is important when it does transfer from one entity to another. You know, I've been involved in municipal levels where that didn't happen, and it is a very large issue. And so if it doesn't get transferred properly. So,
Any further discussion? So we have a motion on the table to table it so that it can include everything that Supervisor Richardson already read. Supervisor Richardson made the motion, Supervisor Docker seconded it. And so youth and governance, how did you vote? Aye. Someone else?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Carries unanimously.
The item has been tabled and will then be on the agenda for December. And with that, we're on to approval of minutes.
Motion to approve.
Second. All right. The minutes have been moved to approve by Supervisor Decker, second by Supervisor Robinson. All in favor?
I,
Opposed? Any abstaining? Any announcements, comments, any comments? Youth and governance, Supervisor? Oh, citizens comments, sorry, I skipped it. Citizens comments? Any citizens wishing to speak? Citizens wishing to speak. Okay, now, sorry, I have no announcements. Youth and governance, other supervisors?
Motion to adjourn.
All right.
Before you do that, so for December.
Got staff.
Yeah, we are last on there. but- So, in December, we have an item that's there, which we anticipate will be needing to be tabled. So now it'll kind of get resolved because of the fact that we have this item that is tabled that we look to take up then. So we'll have those two items, to act on.
All right.
And because we were trying to determine, since we had the December meeting where there was nothing that was gonna take place, that's the meeting when UW Extension is supposed to make their presentation. But now it's kind of been resolved. We don't have those questions about needing to have the meeting, because we do need to have it. So, all right, nothing else to add.
When will the next meeting be?
It is,
December 11th.
13.
The 11th.
The 11th.
so you'll be here.
Wednesday, the 13th.
I should have. Yeah, it's December 11th. December 11th at
What time?
6:30.
I'll be in the air during.
All right,
Even with the, extension, okay, everything.
There'll be an item on the agenda.
okay, got it. All right, so,
Motion to adjourn.
thank you.
Second.
Okay. For a second, here, Supervisor Nettles, all in favor? All right, thank you all so much. Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah.